on page 322 in Chapter 11, there's a section called Test Challenges. And there are several challenges that you're going to face as a new teacher when you're talking about testing. And one of the first things it talks about is the high-stakes testing. As the pressure for accountability has intensified, the federal government has mandated that students be tested annually. And actually, I think the new testing they're thinking about doing would actually test in December and then again in May. And it would clock the growth or lack of, whichever the case may be. Testing becomes high stakes when the assignment of rewards and sanctions are determined by a test score. For instance, your paycheck, 35% of your paycheck dictated by what your students do. All of a sudden, you have some interest in how those students are doing. In a few states, high-performing schools receive additional funds. In some districts, teachers and/or principals receive salary bonuses if test scores improve. Some states provide rewards for high-performing schools, but much more likely is some sort of sanctioning of the low-performing scores. There's very little positive reinforcement for the schools who do well. We actually focus on the ones who not. I've always wondered, if we have a school district that is performing like way at the top, why are we not using that school system's approach to perhaps modify our others? Kind of make us use. I'm not saying it's a stamp and we all use the same one. That can't happen because we know different areas, even the state of Tennessee, there's different types of students in different areas. But I'm saying if we use this as a model, here's what we did, this is what we did, and then we take it maybe and tweak it and make it fit to our school systems. That's one thing I don't understand. If we find somebody that's actually performing well, why are we not using them as a guide instead of maybe purchasing other people's ideas that can help our school be better, that perhaps hasn't even been tried and true, that's not been researched out. On the positive side, some states provide assistance to schools that are in need of improvement by assigning an experienced master teacher or principal to work with the schools, having those state folks come in, more money's poured in. In other cases, principals are reassigned and entire school staff's replaced. In some states, an entire school district that is designated low performing can be taken over by the state. And when that happens, there's nothing you can do. Another reason, if you find something that's working in your classroom and you're just going to keep it to yourself and you're not going to share, well, you take a great risk at doing that, because when the test scores come down, if I'm over in my room and I'm struggling and I don't make the gains, and other people in our hall don't make the gains, but you're sitting over there shining like a star, yes, you may be shining like a star, but when our scores are grouped together, my bad score will override your good one, and then it'll appear as though our school hasn't done anything. So anything you find effectively working, and anybody that wants to know, share it. That's why I don't mind sharing whatever that we do, because if it helps the cause and encourages teachers and lifts them up, then I'm all about doing it. Another challenge would be pressures to cheat. In high stakes conditions, teachers and principals invest concerted efforts in helping their students do well on the test. That could get a little sticky. In nearly every school and classroom, teachers stop their regular instruction for weeks or more to help students prepare for the test. Cheating ranges from telling students how to answer specific test items to teachers, principals, and school district administrators actually changing students' responses on individual tests. This happened several years back in Atlanta, Georgia. It was found out that they take the book that's up and they make sure all of the answers are dark enough so the machine reads them and whatever. Well, while they were in there, they just went ahead and corrected a few. That's cheating. But that was the point where they didn't want low test scores. In other instances, schools have encouraged some students, such as those with learning disabilities, to stay at home on the day of the testing. And I've heard that being suggested. Why don't you just not come next week? And sometimes the parents keep them at home if they think it's not necessary for them to be there and they don't have to be tested. They don't send them, and then the school's not held accountable for that student's grades. That's wrong. That is cheating. Some teachers, maybe you have a student not present for one of the days of the test. Their booklet is in your room while everybody's testing. You're glancing through the book and making some mental notes. That is cheating. But that may be where we're pushing more folks into the rim to even consider that when they would normally, just because of the high stakes testing that's going on. All right, another challenge would be teaching to the test. Time spent on preparing for high-stakes tests reduces the time available to teach related material and other subjects, such as the performing arts, that are not being tested or for which the stakes are not as high. Teaching to the test often means that the development of critical thinking and higher order thinking skills is neglected. It would be me saying today is Wednesday. What is today? Wednesday. Today is Wednesday. So when you're asked, what is today? Wednesday. All right, I'm not letting any critical thinking or higher level thinking go on because I need you to know the answer to that. So that's what it means, teaching to the test. Related issue has to do with balancing the time teachers spend on topics that are likely to be on the test versus instructional time spent on the rest of the curriculum. About 2/3 of teachers, 2/3, indicate that their instruction is too focused on content that will be tested to the detriment of covering other material. An immediate impact from implementation of No Child Left Behind was pressure on teachers to teach to the test. One survey found almost 80% of teachers reporting that they were teaching test-taking skills to students. Well, now, I don't really have a problem with that. Hannah took the ACT a few months ago, and no one told her. Maybe they did, she wasn't listening. She did not finish the ACT test because she ran out of time. And I said, Hannah, when you got close to the time, why weren't you just going ahead and, if nothing else, guessing? Don't leave empty answers on a standardized test. And she said, no, nobody told me to do that. I didn't know I could. So I don't have a problem with test-taking skills and how to determine maybe the right answer and help. I don't know. I don't necessarily think that's teaching to the test. I think that's teaching them how to take the test. And as far as teaching to the test, I hear that a lot from colleagues. But the way I look at it, if there's a set of things, even for this class, if there's a set of objectives that you're supposed to meet, why would I not teach the things that support those? What is expected of you to know when you walk out my door? Why would I not teach us? If we just leave it open, people start teaching anything and everything they want to, all of a sudden there could be so much more time wasted on stuff that shouldn't be wasted on. Another challenge would be one size fits all. Another critical issue related to the heavy focus on testing is the assumption that the same test is appropriate for all students, schools, and states. I totally agree. Our students are going to be very much different than the students in New York City, the students in California, the students in Georgia maybe. No matter how unique individuals might be, all are to take the same relatively narrow test, and major decisions by individual students and their schools are based on that test result. Your paycheck will be based on that test result. Students who are economically advantaged in suburban schools take the same test that low-income urban students take. This practice undermines the credibility of the test, and its results clearly disadvantage some students and schools. So we can look at even a car, all the different makes of cars. There's a reason why there's different makes, different kinds, and in certain parts on a Ford are not going to fit on a Honda, let's say. And there is even certain parts in a Ford Focus that won't fit on a Ford Explorer, let's say. So why would we think that one size would fit all in the education realm where we're talking about humans, uniquely built humans at that? Another challenge would be increased teacher burden. Developing more authentic tasks takes more time than just constructing multiple choice and true false test items. As you're finding out, as you're building the PBLs, as you're doing the projects, can you imagine teaching all day, every day? When are you going to have time to build these projects? Plus, you have collaboration amongst your groups. What if you didn't have that and you were building it on your own? You can imagine the workload. Holistic scoring entails first developing a scoring rubric and then examining each student's response in sufficient detail to determine a total score. That's another part of it. Not only are you developing the activities, but sometimes you're having to develop the rubric that's going to be graded by. Then you're going to have to actually grade them. Then you're going to have to actually put the scores in. I mean, there's just a lot to do and a lot of feedback to the students. The load on teachers become even heavier in secondary schools because each teacher has contact with other students. A related key for individual teachers is to keep in mind that many of the traditional activities that teachers have been doing to assess student learning, such as noting their performance in laboratories and in the field, have become more legitimate with the move to authentic assessments. Now, the thing is, here, it would be much easier for me. It was much easier for me to take, when we used to do the paper version of your test, and you would bubble in the answers, I would bring it in. We have a machine in here. I could run it through the machine, and it would grade your paper, and I would have results and ready. Now, even, I can let you do your test online. The system actually grades it, and the grade can actually go straight into the grade book. I don't have to do any of that. But all of a sudden, when I throw in some kind of authentic activity, an essay that you write, whatever, all of a sudden that becomes me. The computer cannot grade those kind of things. That has to come from me, so it's the time spent. Those are some challenges that you're going to be facing. Time management is going to be a must for you. I really don't worry too much about a lot of those items because you have turned into very good time managers. You're able to crank things out. You're able to use this and your critical thinking, analytical thinking to work yourself through issues. So I think you're going to be fine, but those are some challenges you may face.